Today's EMOM aesthetic, we're going to be working on building spinal erectors. This is my favorite core exercise that has nothing to do with our abs. When we think about our spinal erectors, we're probably stretching them all day long, right? When we sit at our desk over and over and over again. To simplify, it's just a large muscle group in our back that keeps our spine protected, keeps our shoulders back, and really resists gravity for the most part by keeping us in a good position. Your spinal erectors are the things that are responsible for your posture, the ability to stand upright, to be able to not have this rounded back and actually stack your spine and feel good throughout the day. The reason we want to work on these when we're thinking about our core is because when it gets into performance, squats and deadlifts, you're never really missing lifts because your legs or your glutes aren't strong enough, right? We always miss lifts because our core isn't strong enough. But the core is not really just the abs. In fact, the core has very little to do with the abs. The core's main function is to resist external force. So we think about anti-rotational. So if something's pulling us here, or anti-extension, in which maybe you're doing a plank, holding your body out here. Lateral flexion, resisting lateral flexion is another big one. So if you're thinking about a farmer's carry, you don't want to be walking, carrying your groceries and constantly getting pulled here. You want to be able to brace your spine, be able to hold whatever it is in this position, and then be able to walk and stabilize your core. So this is the main function of our core. When we get into the performance thing, we're always going to be thinking about our spinal erectors, right? When you miss a deadlift, when you miss a squat, this is what typically happens, right? We walk out, we sit down, everything looks great, the weight starts to get heavy, and then our back rounds in this position. And if you notice, if I rack this and step it out, this is just that rounded back, poor posture position because our spinal erectors aren't in a good enough position, or they're not strong enough to support our spine. As soon as our spine feels like it's in danger, you've lost the lift, and now we're dumping the barbells. There's a couple really great ways to do this, right? My favorite is the good morning that we're going to be going over that is in this EMOM Aesthetics workout. If you want to get in and check out all the EMOM Aesthetics workouts, there's a link in the description. You can save 10%. They're all EMOM type workouts in which we're really doing a good job of building muscle, doing it in a short amount of time. Lots of lifting weights and good rep ranges from 8 to 10, 8 to 12, so that we're getting a lot of hypertrophy, building strength at the same time. And because we're doing it in an EMOM format, we're focusing on building in that conditioning component without having to do the CrossFit super high intensity piece. So we're getting as much bang for our buck in a short amount of time. So make sure you get in, check out that program, EMOM Aesthetics. It's in the description right at the top line. And use the code SHRUGGED at checkout to save 10%. What's super cool about the good morning is that because we're loading the bar from the top, we really have to fight to keep this stable core and keep a neutral spine. If we don't, what you're going to see and feel very quickly is that rounding, and your body is going to feel a lot of pain in the low back. We definitely do not want that. Now, there's a couple ways in which we can do this. One being the RDL, in which the bar starts at our hips. We push our hips back, and we get down below our knees, squeezing our butt and standing up. As the weight in the RDL gets a little heavier, you may find that the bar is going to round your back. It's also kind of that lockout position in a deadlift. So it's really important that we do our RDLs and really focus on the erectors and building our core, stabilizing our spine in that position. But also, it's an easier position than the good morning because the weight is closer to the ground. It's loaded below the hip, which really helps the balance be over our midfoot, right? So anytime the bar drops close to our body, the weight is in tight over our midfoot, and we're going to be in a much stronger position. When we put the bar on our back and bend forward, there's going to be a significantly larger demand on the core to stabilize your spine. Just think that lever at the very top, as we fold forward, this piece has all the weight putting a ton of demand on the back lower half of your body. Those erectors have to fight extra hard to maintain stability around the spine. And you will feel immediately if your back starts to round because there's going to be a lot of shearing forces, a lot of tension down there. It's not going to feel good. You'll know right away. So what we want to do when we're doing good mornings is make sure that we start out nice and light. I'm going to be using 95 pounds today. I do good mornings in the rep ranges from 12 to 15 reps. My goal isn't always just to load up 2, 3, 4, 5 rep maxes and see if I can continue to do them. We want to think about hypertrophy in the EMOM Aesthetics program. That's one of the biggest aspects, is the muscle building component. So going from 12 to 15, using a load that is very manageable, and you're going to be able to continually do good form throughout. So always focusing on stabilizing your core. We want to focus on stabilization in the core. That's the #1 component that we want to work on. And using those spinal erectors through the good morning is going to make sure our spine stays nice and safe. That way, when you get into the squats, into the deadlifts, into your front squats, all of those movements are going to be significantly stronger because we have a stronger back. So when you think about your core, yes, we're thinking about anti-rotation. Yes, we're talking about anti-extension. And yes, we're talking about anti-lateral flexion. But when we start to train these things, there's tons of exercises that you can do, and none of them are going to be as beneficial as doing good mornings. Everything has benefit. The good morning, just because it's loaded on your shoulders, the weight is getting further away from your midfoot as you go down. There's going to be very few exercises that are able to mimic the difficulty, the benefit that you get out of having light weights. And in today's EMOM Aesthetic, we're going to be hitting good mornings. We're going to be doing some kettlebell swings, some shoulder presses, and we're going to be doing some single arm rows, which is super exciting because all of these are going to require us to have a nice stable core. We're going to be hinging at the hips 3 times in this workout, which means tons of spinal erectors getting worked, tons of core stability, and at no point are we going to think about doing abs. Here's the workout.